What's happening, Vinyl community? Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you guys are when you're watching this. So, this video is probably a little early for you guys. Generally, most people post their Grail videos at the end of the holiday season, but it's been a really good year for me, and I'm actually slowing down at this point in the year. I haven't stopped looking, but I've slowed down because I've got a return trip to Charlotte next year that I'm trying to save for, and a few other things. But I have more than enough to do a Grail video for this year. So this is my 2023 best finds of the year slash Grail video. Um, Anything after this, I will just post in a regular update, but this video is always one that I look forward to doing because it really showcases, how far things have come, and I love sharing stories with you guys. So I'm going to stop rambling and get started. This is in no particular order, so we're just going to do this as we go. One thing I will say though, just to finish off, is there's only one jazz album here. Technically, there's only one jazz album here, which might throw some of you guys off, but I branched out again. Started to dig back into things that I missed from my youth this year, and just focus there. And that's kind of a hard one on its own. But without further ado, let's get started. The first one, honestly, like I said, the stack is totally random, but surprise, surprise, this is the number one for the year. I've been looking for this album for about 3+ years since I got back into vinyl, and even longer before that. I did have an original stereo pressing of this because I never thought I'd find a mono, but like I said, this year's been really good to me. This is Impulse A77, John Coltrane, A Love Supreme. As you can see there, it is a first mono. That beautiful, beautiful, beautiful star label. Van Gelder stamp, the whole ball of wax. This thing plays, honestly, it plays VG++. Visually, it's VG+. It's honestly, it's one of those things where people tend to grade more on the visual versus how it plays and that kind of thing. But this album actually showed up in, I believe if you watched my video, when I first unboxed this, it actually came out of a store in Nebraska. I would have never expected this album would be sitting on the shelves at a store in Nebraska. California, Illinois, New York maybe, but never Nebraska. It was priced incredibly, incredibly reasonably. I sold some stuff out of my comic collection to a friend of mine who's we've been doing business for about 2 years now. Reached out to these guys, asked for pictures. I was astounded at how clean it was, and I pulled the trigger as soon as the money hit my account. And it arrived less than a week later. Spun it, and it sounds incredible. This album you need to hear in mono. There's no doubt about it. You need to hear this album in mono. I mean, the stereo's okay, but it's no substitute for a clean mono. This thing sounds amazing, and when I got this in my hands, I knew that this year was going to be a really special year for me. Last year, end of last year, was really tough for me. Some personal stuff happened and career changes and stuff like that. But I've been in a very good place this year, and about to hit my 1 year anniversary of my new, basically my current job, and I'm very happy there. And if you follow my Instagram at TreeMcGee814, you probably will get some hints as to what I'm doing now. But yeah, this was a huge, huge, huge pickup for me. And I only spin it once in a while, but it always leaves a smile on my face every single time I spin it. So, another category of music that I have actually gotten into this year was African music slash Zamrock slash Afrobeat, you know, that whole ball. And I have Dylan at Noble Records mostly to thank for that. Now, before I got into it, he did tell me that I need to lower my expectations on condition. For those of you that know me on a personal level, yes, I am a little bit OCD when it comes to condition, because if I'm going to spend that kind of money on a Grail, I want it to be the best Grail that I can buy condition wise, because I don't buy multiple copies if I can avoid it. Unfortunately, with African albums, finding a clean one is next to impossible. When you do find them, they are extremely expensive. But I'm still searching, and when they are offered to me in the right shape, if I can do it, that's great. If I can't, that's great. That's fine too. But I started listening to some of these albums on YouTube, started streaming on YouTube, started making a list of the ones I wanted, and I started going down the list. And it's still a big list, but I've made some inroads there. I actually got not one, but 2 copies of this album this year. This is Ricky Alonga, Sunshine Love. Both of these are first Zambian presses. One of these actually came from Zambia. The other came from a collector in the U.S. who buys a lot from dealers over there. Now, I will say that you have to be very careful when you buy from overseas, because condition for us and condition for them are 2 completely different things. You have to be really, really specific as far as what you want, because unlike buying on eBay or Discogs or whatever, there is no refund policy. You buy these, you're stuck with them. So you better be sure of what you want and the condition of them. Both of these visually are VG. They play solid VG plus. I was trying to get, there's a variation of this. See there, you have a dark, black, basically a matte black and gold label, and there's an orange and black that I'm after, but I haven't been able to find that one yet, but it does turn out. I'm still trying to decide which copy I want to keep. One of these is actually going to be sold next year, right before my trip. It's really tough because they both sound similar. They both have a little bit of crackle here and there, but they really sound amazing. Finding these albums and anywhere close to VG Plus is almost impossible. So, you know, both of these I got at a fairly decent price, and I'm really happy with them. Again, it's going to be a tough decision, but you know, Ricky Alonga, a little backstory on him, was in a band called Muzio Tunya before he branched out on his own. His earlier stuff, this one, Zambia, and there's one other one, are all fuzz rock, a little bit of folk influence, but it's more like, I'd call it like electric folk, if that's even a thing, but very psychedelic, very fuzzy guitar. There are reissues of this and a lot of the Zamrock albums because of and they sound great. Like I said, I will say that unless you really want to track down an original, definitely just pick up the reissues. They sound great, and you can get them for a fraction of the price. But really happy to pick these up. The next one is Keith. I'm going to butcher the name, obviously. Keith Malevu, Love and Freedom. This is a first Zambian press on a, looks like Mac Bullet. Again, visually VG, plays weak VG plus. It's got a little crackle here and there, Another thing with these albums is the pressing quality wasn't the best, so you've got to factor that in too. But this is a great album. This is one of the ones you can actually pick up on reasonably priced compared to some of the others. Um, but you know, great stuff. He's more again on that electric folk side. Some of his stuff has you know the guitar is very fuzzy, but great album. And again, I don't think I need to find an upgrade on this. This one plays reasonably well, and I'm happy with this one. Switching gears again to more modern stuff. This is a band that I actually listened to a lot as a teenager. I wore out a copy of this on CD, and when I got back into vinyl, I decided I really wanted to pick this up on vinyl. I really wanted to pick up a first press. I found one at the right price, and I picked it up. This is White Zombie Astro Creep 2000, and this is the limited edition blue vinyl. It came out the same year as the black vinyl pressing. This album is by far, I think, it's arguably their best album. I mean, this and the one before, right before, are like neck and neck. But I mean, with songs, you know, with songs like Electric Head and More Human Than Human, this album just, it pounds into your face from the opening to the end. And I will say one thing about White Zombie as a band, not to take away from them as artists, they sound amazing on album. They're okay live. Unfortunately, I don't think a lot of their material translated very well live, but as far as their catalog goes, I think this album is probably their best example. I've always loved this album, and I was really happy to pick up a original this year, and it gets a reasonable amount of playtime. But you know, again, it's an iconic '90s new metal album / metal album, and definitely a must-have in any format. This one is another one that I discovered this band after high school, just a few years after high school. Again, owned it on CD. Never really cared about vinyl back then. And then when I got back into vinyl, I decided I wanted to pick up a first pressing. This was never released in the U.S. originally. I believe the first U.S. press was like 2016 or 15, something like that. You can post below in the comments if you want to correct me. But decided I wanted to search this one out. So the notes here that I put said not released in the U.S. till 2017, so there you go. But this is Gorilla's Demon Days. This is the first UK press from 2005. The only thing about it is, and I'm not going to take it out, there should be a parental advisor sticker behind this little label. That sticker came off at some point in its life, but it is an original pressing. This album was highly bootlegged. There's a lot of unofficial presses for this. If you want to pick up a really nice sounding official press, the Vinyl Me Please one sounds really good. But I decided I really wanted an OG. And this one plays solid VG+. You know, Gorillaz aren't for everybody. You know, it features Damon Albarn of Blur on vocals. And to me, I think this is the last album before their sound changed a little bit. And the newest album, Cracker Island, is not for everybody. There's mixed reviews on it. But this is an iconic album. You know, Feel Good Inc. obviously was all over the radio at that time, and was really happy to pick this up this year. And unless I can find one with the parental advisor sticker still intact, this one ain't going anywhere. Switching gears again, this guy was another one I discovered through actually listening to West African compilation CDs back in the early 2000s. Didn't really pay much attention to him. I mean, I liked the track, but Again, watching Dylan's videos about African records and stuff, I decided to research him, and there's a lot of stuff from this guy's back back catalog that I really liked. And again, Nigerian records are just as hard to find clean as Zamrock records or Zambian records. This is William Onyebor, Atomic Bomb. This is a first Nigerian press, solid VG plus condition. Cover's a little worse for wear. There's a tape repair, a little bit of edge flaking, but the wax plays really nice. And his name has actually had a resurgence after his death, or around the time of his death, because he was very ahead of his time, very synth keyboard oriented, almost like pre-electronic music before there was electronic music. This came out in '78, so it's a few years before like the '80s electronic movement and stuff like that. And of course, in Europe and the U.S. they were experimenting with it, but obviously in Africa this was a brand new thing. And this album is actually a little bit on the political side here and there. And again, you can pick up reissues of this. I really want an original, and his stuff is really good. You've probably heard the track, not on this album, but the track Fantastic Man's been used in a few different commercials and stuff like that. But great artist. Not a lot is really known about him as far as his history. He obviously had enough money. He had his own pressing plant, his own production company, and then he gave it all up and found religion. That's basically all there is. And a lot of the information about him is either missing facts or is completely non-factual. So there's that aspect. But again, another solid pickup this year. This next one was actually one that I discovered through YouTube. YouTube likes to say, hey, if you're listening to this, you might like this. And Dylan did pick this one up a while back, and I listened to it, really liked it. Backstory on this, excuse me. Basically, another one of those bands that were discovered via contest. Label. The story goes, label is looking for a new band. These guys submitted their application, if you will, and they were signed. And I believe they only did one album, and they just vanished into history. But this is a Matata Independence. This is a first pressing from first English pressing from 1974. Solid VG plus condition again. Pure Afro funk, Afro beat. Really great stuff. You can stream this on YouTube. If you can find an original of this, I highly recommend picking it up. It's a great album. If you like funk, Afrobeat, etc., this one is definitely worth having, and it won't break the bank. I think I paid a little over 100 for this. But again, great album and another solid pickup from me this year. Switching gears again. This is an album, this band has some controversy behind them. Some people don't like the lead singer. Some people, because of her affiliation with Kurt Cobain, and I'm sure you know where this is going. But I like good albums regardless. And this to me was an album that I absolutely loved as a kid, regardless of the murky waters behind it. And it only had one U.S. pressing until I believe. Well, it didn't actually have a U.S. press. It was only pressed in Europe in '98, and I believe the first American presses again were like 2015, 2016, something like that. So I found a original European press through a seller in Japan, and was very happy when I got this. But they definitely undergraded it. This is Whole Celebrity Skin. Again, 98 original pressing. Very, very nice condition. Probably been played a handful of times. This album to me is their standout, with tracks like, Malibu. Celebrity Skin's okay, but I like the track Malibu. It's a very solid flowing album. This was around the time that Courtney Love cleaned herself up and tried to basically repackage herself, and it's a great sounding album. Definitely one of those that I think flies under the radar, again, because of the controversy behind the lead singer. But it's an amazing album, and I was really, really happy to get this on vinyl. It sounds really nice, even for an original pressing. Which vinyl from the '90s, if you're not aware, sometimes the pressings can sound a little muddy and stuff like that. This one sounds really solid. Um, but again, one of those albums I think that flies under the radar with time, and definitely a solid pickup if you can find it. This next one is one that I was very happy to get this on a different level compared to some of the other stuff I've shown you here today. It was only pressed once before as a promo on gray and clear vinyl, and the 96 second press, which is what I have here, had a slightly different cover, and it was a little bit less expensive, but they're still getting harder and harder to find. But I had to pick this up. This was from an original owner collection. This is Tool, Undertow. Again, 96 second press. Sounds amazing. The guy played it maybe a handful of times. Sounds awesome. This to me, next to Anima, is the one to have. Don't get me wrong, Lateralis, etc., is a great album, but to me, this little period between Anima and Undertow is where it's at. And since I picked this one up around spring of this year, copies have actually sort of dried up. There's not a lot of them on Discogs. There's not a lot. You rarely see them on eBay. Period. So I was really happy to get this. Outside of a few little condition issues on the jacket, crease here, etc. I mean, wax plays beautifully, and this is another one that's not leaving my collection anytime soon. Switching gears a little bit, staying in the 90s, these next two are actually hip-hop related, I don't buy a lot of hip-hop, but there's iconic albums that I have, I feel like I need to own on vinyl if I can afford it, and I've been working on that. This first one was actually one of the most recent pickups I got, and was really shocked at how clean this one is. This is Ice Cube, Death Certificate. This is an original pressing, on Priority Records, super, super, super clean. I mean, it's got the shrink on it. Beautiful, beautiful copy. This came through a seller in California that I've dealt with, and he was going to post this as part of his one of his drops. I reached out to him and said, dude, I got to have this. What can we do? Came up with a price, and I sold some stuff out of my comic collection to make this happen. It arrived later that week. Cleaned it, put it on. Sounds amazing. I've posted about this album before, but I will say, if Tupac was considered the warrior poet in the hip-hop world, Ice Cube was definitely the pipe bomb. This album does not pull any punches. It's raw, it's in your face, it's aggressive. He had only done one album prior to this, before after his departure from NWA, and this one to me is the standout out of the three that he did at the beginning of his career. It talks about a variety of controversial subjects, self-defense, police brutality, etc., etc., etc. And this also features one of the greatest diss tracks in the history of hip-hop in No Vaseline, which, if you're not a hip-hop fan, backstory on that track was, when he left NWA released a track, which the title escapes me, but they essentially called Ice Cube a traitor. They called him Benedict Arnold. He came back with the track No Vaseline, which the title is very adequately and accurately put for that track. The best thing I can say, the best way I can describe it is that old saying, "Don't bring a knife to a gunfight." NWA brought a knife, Cube brought a shotgun, and it's a brutally savage track. But it's an iconic album, and I'm so happy to have this. This next one is another iconic album. I actually found a repress of this when I was in Charlotte earlier this year, and I wanted an original. I thought it was an original, but turns out it wasn't. And actually, while I was still there, I managed to track down a European press and paid for it while I was there, and it actually was waiting for me here at home when I got off the plane. This is Nas Illmatic. This album really needs no introduction. It's an iconic album. It's really in the top 25 must-have hip-hop albums. If you're familiar with Ahmad Jamal, his album The Awakening, it was sampled. This album sampled it. This is just an amazing album and a true soundtrack to the early mid '90s hip hop scene. And I mean, New York State of Mind is just an incredible track. This whole album is just pure fire, and it's getting a little bit more on the expensive side to find original presses. U.S. pressing, your first U.S. pressing was a little bit out of my price range, so I went for a European press, which sometimes that's a good way to go. No difference in quality, sounds absolutely amazing, and I think this one was sold overseas because there's a little bit of there's a little sticker here with some looks like Mandarin lettering, so I'm assuming this was a UK press that got sold overseas. But not a bootleg. All the everything matches up, and I was really happy to get this. In fact, honestly, after this video is done, I will probably put this on and listen to it. I haven't listened to it for a while. Two more, guys. So, going back on Afrobeat, earlier this year, I picked up a Tony Allen record. That was an original Nigerian press, and a little bit beat up, clicks and stuff, but no skipping. Played really great. Tony Allen was the drummer for Africa 70, and Fela Kuti's band, if you're familiar with him. And this album I heard via YouTube, and I wanted to find an original, but I looked it up. There were none available. This album actually came through a collector in Europe who came across a collection. The second I saw it, I'm like, dude, is this an original? What's the condition? We talked back and forth. A month later, I had paid for it, and it arrived, and I was so happy to get this. There's only been, I believe, 2 copies that have sold in VG Plus condition since 2015. For all I know, this might be one of them, but I highly doubt it. This is Tony Allen, no accommodation for Lagos. This is an original Nigerian press. I want to pull this out because it's really beautiful. Jacket's really nice, apart from like a little bit of looks like that might be a price mark or whatever, and a little bit of sticker residue. Gatefold's in really nice shape. Beautiful, beautiful shape. Fela Kuti is actually on this, I believe, as a producer, and might have actually contributed some of the music, collaborated some of the music. Just again, pure funk, pure African funk. Again, condition's really nice. Solid VG Plus condition. When I say this is an incredibly rare to find in this condition, I'm not joking. They're almost unicorns. You don't find them like this. I believe there's 2 currently on Discogs, and both of them are G+. So, to say that I was excited to get this was an understatement. I've played it a handful of times. It sounds amazing. Tony Allen is an amazing drummer. When you I based his musical talent towards someone like Art Blakey. You know, jazz compositions sometimes will go for quite a long time. Some of these African compositions will go for 20 plus minutes, and for somebody to keep timing for that long and not show any ounce of fatigue, etc., that's a hell of a spotlight on that artist. Tony Allen is definitely up there to me as far as one of the greatest drummers out there. Um, to me, like I said, he's up there with Art Blakey as far as talent goes. Um, but because his stuff is more on the Afrobeat side, he tends to get overlooked. But amazing, amazing album. This to me was one of the biggest pickups for the year, and I am still in shock that I'm holding this right now. The final one is one that, again, was a part of my senior year of high school. Um, I wore out multiple copies of this album. I saw this band in concert multiple times. I met the lead singer. Sadly, we lost him a few years ago. And original presses of this are not cheap. But I was able to find one through eBay. It was an amazing price again. Moved mountains to get it, and I'm so happy to have this. This is Linkin Park, Meteora. This is an original 2003 press. Again, solid VG plus, if not better. Beautiful, beautiful condition. OGs of this are, you know, $400. It's just the way it is. It's an incredible album. I mean, when I first discovered Linkin Park, it was when Hybrid Theory came out, and I'm like, you know, great, another rap rock group, not my thing. And then when I heard this, my jaw dropped. Was like, there's no way this is the same group. This whole album is just solid from start to finish. They really, really evolved from Hybrid Theory into Meteora, and again, I was able to see them a couple times in concert. I met Chester. Amazing band, and you know, they get some flack, but for those of us that, you know, were in high school in the late '90s, early 2000s, this is one of the bands of the soundtrack of our high school years. And I was really happy to get this. Sadly, you know, we lost Chester a few years ago to his demons, and I've talked about this before, but not to go off on a tangent, but as we finish up this video, I did want to say, if you're suffering from inner demons, just remember, you're never facing them alone. There's always someone out there who's willing to take up the flag next to you. There's always somebody willing to help. You never have to fight this battle alone. Sadly, Chester's demons won, and he took his own life. I can only imagine what he was going through at the time to leave, you know, a family behind. But it's a lesson, you know, it's a lesson for those of us that suffer with depression, anxiety, you know, what have you. That's what happened. That's what can happen when, you know, you don't have the support behind you, or if you have the support behind you and you're not listening. But if nothing else, his music will live on. His legacy will live on in his music and Linkin Park's music. Amazing lyricist, very tortured soul. This album to me was like, this was probably one of the top two big pickups for me this year. I listen to this album probably, you know, once a week, whether it be YouTube, whether it be, you know, this one on vinyl. I love this album. It was such a pivotal part of my high school years, just like a lot of us. But on that note, guys, that's it for this video. If you like what you see, please click like and subscribe. I ain't going anywhere, you know, still buying, and 2024 is going to be just as good a year. I'm hoping I can top it. I don't think I can top 2023, but you never know. But on that note, guys, it's been a pleasure as always. Stay safe this holiday season. Keep your head up and enjoy the music. And on that note, I'm going to call it. Have a great day, and we'll talk to each other soon. You guys take it easy.